Words simply cannot describe the wonder in this game. The way the trees sway back and forth in charming unison, the way the sun's beaming light glides across the landscape, the way the water ripples beneath the weight of gravity and the soft pull of the fresh summer wind. And as I stand atop my tower of bliss, I see something far off in the distance. Holy shit. What is that? I mean, was that supposed to happen? Is that a fire? Ah yes, Firewatch, the game which prides itself on a simple premise. Out in the wilderness, enjoy your summer job that acts more of a vacation than any other. Hike the glorious landscapes, fish in the lake, yada yada yada, the whole thing. The intro's over. Welcome, dear viewers, to a short ode to a monolith in gaming, one left unplayed by many, but undeniably phenomenal when viewed in all its quiet glory. And in this video, I'm here to break it down. Whether you've played the game or not, I hope to convince you of one of two things. One, play it or replay it, and two, see the deeper pathways this game refuses to lay bare on the surface. Hopefully, you'll learn something, whether you're a lover of stylized media or just attracted to the absolute hunk of a man you play as. Right, just roll the title sequence. I'll see you in a bit. Okay, listen, I've made it abundantly clear that I hate plot summaries, but considering Firewatch isn't exactly a household name outside the indie niche, some mansplaining's in order. Sorry in advance. You play as Henry, an unfortunate soul who's basically lost his wife to Alzheimer's, and decided he needs a holiday. But it's in that moment he realizes he's broke, I guess. I mean, I don't know, I'm filling gaps here already. And so he decides to cover up his need for escape through taking a job that'll give him just that, and maybe a cheeky little bit of clarity at the same time. Or so he thinks. So he signs up to be a fire watcher, and guess what? Clues in the name. They sit there for 70 days, look around, shout at kids, maybe spot a fire and call other people to sort it out. Best job ever. Upon arrival, he's assigned a neat tower to do his precarious business in, and then he meets his boss, Delilah. She's mocking, annoyingly flirtatious, but surprisingly charming. That's when they spot fireworks. They find the deviants behind said fireworks, they get mad, the deviants run off. Then Henry sees a shadowy figure, spooky, not much comes of it, until he returns to his tower and finds it decimated. Comms go off completely, not between Henry and Delilah for some reason, and when our boy investigates, he finds the comms lines have been cut deliberately. A note signed by the girls from earlier is left at the scene, and thus begins the mystery trademark. He tracks the girls' trail and finds their camp ransacked and left for dead. A few weeks later, the girls are reported missing. Great, just great. On his way back, Henry finds a backpack addressed to Brian Goodwin, a young boy who used to tag along with his dad, Ned, an ex-lookout. Apparently, both vanished one day and never returned. Mad idea, but something's telling me that's not what happened. 2 months later, holy shit, I didn't realize those time skips, a massive fire breaks out. Henry goes fishing, because sure, that's what you do, and stumbles across a clipboard, one with every single word he and Delilah have said to each other, written in fine print on its surface. Someone's been spying. Oh, look, a radio. Ow, damn it, my head. I wonder how that did. The clipboard's gone, but luckily Henry remembers a vague ballpark area the clipboard mentioned it was addressed from, so he heads over there and breaks into the old wildlife research site. Cheers, mate. Inside, he finds a literal case file on him and Delilah, as if it couldn't get any bloody worse. But hey, silver lining, there's a compass that tracks signals, which is dope. He nabs it and gets the hell out of there. Next day, that whole research camp is gone, burned to the ground, and that fire merged with the other fire to create an even bigger fire. The signal tracker lights up again. Henry follows it to a key for a locked-off cave, goes spelunking, and discovers Brian Goodwin's body. Yeah, a dead child buried under rocks. I mean, come on, who really kills kids? Then things get even messier. Delilah, drunk off her ass, sees a man at Henry's tower and thinks it's him. Spoiler alert, it's not. Henry runs back and finds a tape recorder strapped to his door. On it, a very incriminating audio log of him and Delilah debating setting fire to the research site. Not outright doing it, just debating. So yeah, someone's out here trying to frame them. Then someone impersonates Henry, I can only wonder who, and snitches on Delilah. Now both are paranoid, second-guessing everything and barely trusting each other. Evacuation day hits. This is going very fast. Henry's beepy signal thing flares up one last time. He follows it and finds a final backpack with another tape. A confession. It's Ned Goodwin. The dad of Brian, the dead kid, or as I'm dubbing him, the hermit. Turns out Ned's been living in the forest this whole time, off-grid, because he couldn't face what happened to Brian. He spied on Henry and Delilah, used the old research camp to tap into their radios, and tried his best to scare Henry away to protect his privacy. Not out of malice, just out of grief and guilt, and a hell of a lot of loneliness. Henry and Delilah say their goodbyes over the radio, the chopper arrives, he gets in, game over. With the plot recapped, it's time to delve into the game itself, and don't fret if you didn't get all that. I'll give a few refreshers when we delve into topics with more depth. Next up, of course, the world. That's very important. What makes this game's art style and visual structure stick out so well? Why, we're about to find out. Roll that fade out animation. Hiya, let's not waste time. Catch up, will you? As you've probably gathered from the clips flying across the screen so far, Firewatch is a very aesthetically pleasing experience. Its visual style is soft, rounded, and incredibly easy on the eyes. The warm lighting, the clean, bold textures, and that signature Unity look, together they create something that feels simple, but intentionally crafted. There's something really compelling about how Firewatch builds its world. It uses basic shapes and textures, but arranges them in a way that feels rich and layered. Add a touch of cell shading and suddenly there's a surprising sense of depth and detail, even though nothing's overly complex. What this creates is a calming, almost handcrafted experience, like the game is inviting you to sit down, take a breath, and just exist in its space. And the magic is, it doesn't matter what time of day it is, morning, night, or golden hour sunset with fires raging from beyond. It's always beautiful. That's because everything here works together in harmony. Each element, whether that be lighting, colour or texture, plays its part in holding the world together, making it feel not just designed, but truly lived in. Moving on to the map design itself, what really stands out to me, at least in my interpretation, is how it subtly mirrors Henry's mental state. Okay, come on, just give me this once. He takes this job to get away from everything, to finally forge his own path and escape the weight of his problems. On the surface, it looks like freedom, a chance to chill out and let loose, but as you play, you realise he's constantly on the move, searching, following trails, rarely straying off the beaten path. No matter where he is, whether it's in the middle of Times Square or deep in the Wyoming wilderness, he's still walking paths that someone else has already laid down. Every route leads to a fixed destination, and every time he reaches one, it feels like his problems just catch back up to him the moment he stops to rest. Now, you might be wondering how that connects to the world itself, but that's where things get interesting. The map design is subtly brilliant. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is the trails don't actually tell you where to go. Sure, there are signs here and there, but for the most part, the park encourages you to wander, to figure things out on your own. And that's where the illusion kicks in. Even when it feels like you're exploring freely, you're still following paths, maybe not clearly marked ones, but trails nonetheless. Whether intentional or not, it creates this really clever tension, like you're lost but still being guided. It's a smart, layered design choice, and if the developers did plan that, these lads are craftier than I thought. Moving on to the world's backing track, the music, and man, this game knows exactly where to place its soundtrack. The majority of the game is dead silent. The only noise you get that's remotely musical is a drunken Delilah mumbling into your walkie-talkie. And while that's quite musical enough on its own, it's just, but occasionally, you'll get a sting. Some arbitrary strum of a guitar or something or other, each one dropped with sniper precision to deliver a very specific vibe. You could have the exact same chord, strummed in the exact same way, hell, even the exact same MP3 file, and it would hit completely differently depending on where it lands. Dead of night, you're creeping around paranoid looking for answers, and BAM! Spooky guitar sting makes you flinch, wandering through an open valley as the sun sets. Same chord. This time it melts your chest instead of tensing it. And let me let you in on a little secret, it's all about placement. Man, I feel like I'm teaching a class over here. The music of Firewatch is used so sparingly and so purposefully that when it shows up, you know it's not just part of the ambiance. It really sticks out and elevates the world even by the slightest bit. Think about it, the whole picture you're seeing, it all gets lifted by a single strum of a guitar. I mean, you've got to be a new level of idiot to be fooled by a single chord. Undeniably masterful stuff over here. Circling back to the theme of environmental storytelling, time of day plays a huge role in Firewatch. Sunrises are where most of the banter happens. You wake up, check in with Delilah, trade some back and forths, and hit the trail. It's portrayed as a peaceful moment, arguably the most calming part of the day. Everything feels fresh, reset, like the game is giving you a breath before the next step forward. Midday from noon into the afternoon is when the game leans into its slice of life side. Honestly, not much happens during these hours in terms of drama, but this is really when the most activity takes place. You know, hiking, jogging, exploring. It's when the game feels most like summer, and if you've experienced a good summer or two, you know exactly what I mean. That quiet, sunny stillness where the heat and routine give the day its shape. Sunset is often seen as beautiful regardless of the stakes. Henry always makes an effort to call out the beauty of the surroundings or the light itself during these hours. And finally, night, where all the spooky stuff happens. Where the majority of scary stories emerge, a dark summer night, and Firewatch embodies that. Revelations, breaking into high clearance government camps for some reason, and seeing shadowy figures. It pretty much secures the idea that this game adores using time of day to set the mood as fact. And you know what? I think it's time to move on. The world's been overanalyzed enough. Let's pop in and check in on the gameplay elements, shall we? They're incredibly inventive. I didn't have a transition. Greetings, lads, and before you ask, yes, the title is a spin on overstimulation. You know, that word you hear getting thrown around all the time. It's kind of like a meta thing, just, okay. To start, just look at what we're dealing with here. We've got a map, a trusty compass, radio, and that's pretty much it. Maybe you could chuck in a sneaky signal beepy thing, but yeah, not much to work with. Now, on the surface, this is a pretty boring design choice. Like, why not some hologram guns or something? Well, thankfully, Firewatch gives us the blunt answer. This game was designed to be low stakes, grounded, and practical. You're focusing on one guy, his mate, and the outdoors, not much to get all up in arms about. So this game takes advantage of that by making the gameplay elements so mundane that it's unintentionally fun. Having to search around for information, finding only paper maps you use to scribble over your own paper map, it immerses you in this world that represents one key thing: manual effort. Picking up objects is a physical act. Instead of simply pressing a button and you've got an entire contoured simulation, collectibles and all, right before your very eyes, it forces you to, wait, think? How amazing is that? You actually have to orient yourself, keep track of your position. If you take a wrong turn, there's no recalculating route voice in your ear. Just like a real hike, you've got to backtrack on foot, you crazy bastard. It does not pull its punches because, quite simply, simply, no punches exist to be pulled in the first place. It's odd that with a game where the objective is foggy and the entire premise is questionable, Firewatch somehow creates more frustration and more immersion than most high-budget games crammed with features. That's quite simply because it strips away the hand-holding your average massive AAA title gives you. I can't walk across a whole city? Well, here's some web-swinging mechanics. I can't walk across a whole city? Well, here's some gliding mechanics. I can't, walk across a whole city? Well, here's a car. You get the point. By scaling things down to this controlled environment, Firewatch presents you with the most relatable frustrations possible. I went the wrong way. Damn it. No way. This bit is blocked off. No. I can't read this map. Oh, maybe if I look closer. It's super interesting how well de-stimulating the mind and bringing things back to basics amplifies the immersion in people. There's an odd kind of peace in feeling a little lost, wandering around an empty world that mirrors your own quiet. And for me, that connection was instant. I've never truly felt so pulled into a game so quickly. The fact that Firewatch held me for its entire 4-hour runtime without a single explosion or epic boss battle is honestly still pretty damn impressive. Moving on! There's plenty of objects to pick up in this game, and out of everything, around 3 of them are actually useful. The rest are all just random books and pebbles that you just pick up and put down. Half of them you can't even read. The most interesting thing you can really find is a turtle, and even then, you look at him, throw him in your backpack, and that's it. You can't even interact with the guy. What the hell, guys? This is mainly because you're meant to feel just like a regular guy, a bored one at that. Picking up random things and not even bothering to look any closer is the kind of thing an understimulated person would do. Just lugging around, looking for something that catches their eye, picking up anything in sight, yet nothing is enough. It's more grounding, forcing you to stop thinking ahead and just stop. Stop thinking. Stop overanalyzing. There's no need to worry. Just sort of enjoy yourself. I reckon we don't get enough of that in games nowadays. Now, I love dashing to the next objective as much as the next guy, but to have a game completely strip you of everything, and even go out of its way to add things that are virtually useless, it's just like real life. Well, real life, but rendered in Unity. Now, I'm sure I know exactly what you're thinking. This is all very odd. If Firewatch is so manual and textbook bland, then what makes it fun? Well, the answer is right under your nose, lad. Discomfort. The very complaint this game receives is its core. So little is going on that it's uncomfortable. But sit with that discomfort for a bit, you begin listening to the dialogue and nestling yourself further into this world. Not much is happening outside of the world, really, because it's all happening inside you, as Henry. The long gaps of silence between chats with Delilah gives you a chance to think as you walk, and once again, like a real fucking hike, you start brainstorming. I don't know about anyone else, but the more I was left alone with my own thoughts just to walk, the more I started my own little theories about what was going on in the world. I started questioning Delilah's authenticity and the nature of the park itself, even whether it was all in their head. By Firewatch bringing you back to basic senses, it allows you to fill in the gaps with whatever you wanted. And that's what I and many people enjoy about walking in life. The freedom it gives to think and come up with random stuff completely unrelated to the situation. I came up with so many random ideas thanks to this. Great use of storytelling here, or lack thereof. Even crazier, in tandem with how much heavy lifting the silence does, is how it doubles up on contrast. Sure, things can be all joyful and insightful as you walk, but it's also where about 90% of the tension is established and built upon. Where most games use silence sparingly and mainly for a cooldown period, Firewatch combines both cooldown and pressure, expressing them through this silence as the main event. Tension in this game doesn't come from what you see, it's quite the opposite. It comes from what you might see. A real probably, which sits right with practically nobody. It's about the possibility that something could be behind that next bend, listening on your radio calls, or waiting for you to let your guard down. And what makes that tension so effective is the total absence of confirmation. Nothing ever happens. That's right, dear viewers, stuff happens, sure, but it's all faceless. Firewatch never shows you you the face of the mastermind, only a decrepit hermit lair and a sob story. Hell, you don't even see Delilah's face or the firefighters shrouded by masks. The only face you see is your own, plastered on a single framed picture in your lookout. It brushes the idea of evil, of a face behind it all, just enough for you to start constructing one yourself. Most of the stuff that happens in this game is from your own mind, conjuring random thoughts you take as truth. Case in point, Firewatch is only scary because you make it scary. It's only tense because you make it tense. And it's only worth bothering with because you made it worth something. Blame yourself. You're the protagonist and the antagonist of this random fucking guy's story. See you later. Thank you. Seriously, see you later. Chapter 4! Character analysis. This is where things get... okay, they get pretty mad. Hold on to your pet turtle. So, as with many stories, you'd expect the characters in this game to have an arc, right? Some way of wrapping things up in a bow, bit of closure and some personal improvement from our protagonist. Firewatch, yeah, it doesn't really do that. Firewatch's characters are intertwined with the narrative heavily. It's held up solely by Henry and Delilah, with a few shenanigans thrown in there. But unlike most media, its goal is clear-cut and simply subversive. Peel back the layers, no development needed. This story is all about revealing what is hidden as opposed to building on it, realizing how broke both of our main characters truly are. The tension is derived not from whether they'll overcome their issues, but whether they'll even admit they have them at all. Henry runs, that's his whole thing. He ran from Julia's illness, ran from real decisions, and now runs into a job where isolation is disguised as duty. Unfortunately, the nature of this job, get it, nature, isn't quite the fit for him, as he was looking for an escape. He wanted to arrive somewhere with issues and trauma that needed recovering, go in there and forget about it, and leave possibly better off, possibly worse off. You know what? He didn't even think that far. Anything to get away from this train wreck now is what pleases him. He'll deal with the consequences later, though constant isolation with no physical contact leads him to ponder even deeper on his thoughts. The desperation in trying anything to satisfy him, even for a little while, just something in this boring place to distract him away from the pain, only leads him closer. Negative thought patterns feed on a frenzy for escape. It's like a worm writhing beneath the fangs of a tarantula. No matter how much you wiggle around and beg for escape, that thing is hungry, and it's not putting you down anytime soon. Henry slowly realizes this as he goes fucking insane. He imagines his wife calling him on the radio late at night and tries to talk to her, only to learn the next morning that it was all a hallucination. He questions his own existence, as we all have, wondering if this is all a Truman Show type situation, as we all have, and he's the only real person in this nature reserve, as we all have. It truly shows how broken Henry is, that in the pursuit of the most extreme methods of liberation, he ends up making it worse. And I'll tell you what, Delilah isn't a clean slate either. Oh no, she takes a different approach from Henry, as she prefers to fill that silence with a world of deflection. Banter, jokes, booze, mild workplace harassment, the list goes on for miles, really. Anything to keep that precious quiet from creeping in. She's the kind of person who talks so much that you forget she ever actually said anything. And it doesn't end there, oh no, because she's great at diverting you off track as soon as you ask something that goes a little too far. She asks us all the personal questions she wishes, but the moment we turn the social knife on her, wha-bang, nope. Let's just move on and focus back on you, dear Henry. That, or she just straight up takes the piss. Yeah, okay, let's talk more on my wife. So she's on the verge of death. It's subtle at first, but once you clock it, you can't unsee it. It's like she's performing closeness instead of just living it like we are. Furthermore, something most players don't necessarily realize is Henry and Delilah's relationship is structurally engineered to expose your own patterns of avoidance, not theirs, yours. From the very first conversation, the game subtly puts you in a psychological bind. Delilah is charming, flirty, and suspiciously elusive, so you're given a choice. Flirt back, stay reserved, or prodder for depth. But no matter what you do, there's one constant. You're always speaking to a voice, not a person. It's a long distance tether, and that distance never shrinks. In most games, player choice brings characters close together. Here, you're choosing how to interpret loneliness, and it stays lonely. Every line you pick says more about how you cope with isolation than how Henry does. Delilah, meanwhile, is written with an underlying sense of unpredictability within her. She'll go from teasing to stonewalling in seconds, and it's never framed as inconsistent, nor called out by Henry at any point. It's actually quite natural. And why is that? Because the developers understood that emotional avoidance often masquerades as inconsistency. Delilah doesn't lie to Henry, she lies around him. She redirects and sends a few jokes his way. It's even noted that she didn't even check on him for hours at a time by a point, straight from talking every 5 minutes to silence for hours. And most players, including me until I really sat down and looked back, never call it out. You know, how could you really? Because when someone's nice to us most of the time, we're willing to overlook the gaps. That's some real intimate realism. In addition to this, the way Firewatch weaponizes the player's expectation of intimacy is pretty scary. See, the game lets you build this relationship with Delilah. Things go from banter to casual chat to opening up about trauma in the matter of hours for us. And then the end comes. It denies you of everything that structure promised. Absolutely zero catharsis. Hell, you don't even see a face, mate. And it's presented as punishment because, oddly, none of the characters here are in the wrong. Another example of you filling the gaps with the breadcrumbs this narrative left you. Because the game knows you treated that relationship like a game mechanic. And don't act like you didn't picture a happy ending with her either, you liar. Like if you said the right things, you'd get the girl. I was on that bandwagon since day one. Henry has a dying wife, for God's sake, and here I am disappointed he didn't get with the girl he'd been speaking to for a summer, while the other bloke struggled with dementia all that time. And I mean, yeah, you don't get the girl, because she was never yours to begin with. What's a radio but a few wires and beepy things? That's not a relationship, is it? And that's the magic trick Firewatch? Okay, come on. And that's the magic trick Firewatch pulls off. It gives you this charming, flirty back and forth for hours, and then never cashes it in, because deep down, Delilah is terrified of turning virtual connection into physical consequence. Her whole relationship with Henry is safe because it's disembodied. She can be vulnerable without showing her face, and care without committing. It's all comforting and consequence-free, until Henry asks the big old question. What happens next? She's all like, I'ma leave on the helicopter. He's all like, nah, that's cool, bye-bye. And there we go, credits roll. Like, why did she leave so quick and so eager? It's the clearest act of avoidance in the whole game, in the whole world. I forgot the line. Even with what was I gonna say? Even with the world literally burning down around them, Delilah chooses to leave first so she never has to meet the man she spent a summer emotionally attached to. In a way, she knows something Henry doesn't. The moment you introduce reality into a fantasy bond, it collapses under its own weight. Then, Henry asks her to visit him afterwards back in Boulder, and she says she might. Maybe. Eventually. You already know she won't, don't kid yourself. And it's not because she's necessarily cruel, but because it's easier to promise a future than to confront a present, if that makes sense. And again, we've all been there. Doesn't mean she's right, but I get it. What am I going to do about it, though? Confront her? She's offered a helicopter to another state. I can't be arsed. I mean, really? If the roles were reversed and you were offered an escape from a dying forest, a dying relationship, and your own guilt, would you stay? Really? Really? I'll let you think about that. My answer's no. For the record. Yeah, leave her behind for all I care. Anyway, neither of them changes, neither of them grows. But for 70 days, they held on to each other like they were the only two people left alive. And maybe, for a little while, that was enough. You can leave now.